Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Essential Album video. We're now on week 47, and this week we're taking a look at Brothers in Arms by Dire Straits. First released May 17th, 1985. Some notable tracks on this album include Money for Nothing, Walk of Life, So Far Away, and Your Latest Trick. And this is just an incredible album. Might be my favorite Dire Straits album. It's either close between this one and their first album. And then I don't know the name of it offhand, but whatever album had, it might be Making Movies, has Romeo and Juliet on it. Romeo and Juliet is a classic track from them, so that album is really good as well. But yeah, Brothers in Arms is just incredible. I actually have the album, picked it up on vinyl some years back. I want to say maybe even like 2012, 2013 or so. Because, yeah, according to the price sticker here, I only paid $4 for this back whenever that was. Don't know what it necessarily goes for now, but it's just a classic album. Got that steel, it's like the steel resonator, I think is what it's called. The classic kind of steel guitar on the cover here. And then you have, obviously, the record itself. But yeah, just a classic album from them. Some just iconic hits on this album, like we mentioned. Money for Nothing, Walk of Life, for example. Some of their most kind of classic tracks. I have my notes here. We're going to get through the notebook, and then we'll get to our reviews, track listing, and all that as well. We just go into here. Let me just pop this open. All right, so we have, again, Brothers in Arms by Dire Straits. Again, first release May 17th, 1985. This is their fifth studio album. And I think they were together from like the late 70s into the early 90s. I think they got back together briefly at one point, but they've been broken up for quite some time. Apparently, this was did not know this before doing research for this video. This is the first album released on CD to sell 1 million copies. Albums, like we mentioned, Thriller last week sold a bunch of copies, probably across the different mediums. But apparently, Brothers in Arms was the first one to sell 1 million copies, specifically on the CD format. So, pretty interesting there. It is apparently also the first album in the UK to go 10 times platinum. So, basically selling 10 million copies in the UK. So, 10x platinum there. That's pretty impressive. Did very well on the charts in US, Australia, UK. In 1986, it won a Grammy. So the following Grammy Awards. It won for Best Engineered Album, Non-Classical. That's kind of a little more on the technical side, but I'm not exactly sure like how like the engineering the music works. Probably like I know it deals with like the recording process and how it was like mixed and what have you. A little more technical than kind of like what I know about like music production and stuff like that. So, but did win a Grammy Award in 1986. Can't really talk about the album without mentioning enough Money for Nothing. One of their biggest hits. It might be their biggest or most well-known track. Obviously, Sultans of Swing is up there. Walk of Life is up there. For me, Romeo and Juliet is also on that list. But Money for Nothing is just an iconic track. Got that great guitar riff in the beginning of the song. And of course, it had a very iconic music video that used a lot of early kind of like CGI and computer animation. Probably one of the most iconic music videos of all time, I would say. Kind of up there with music videos like, I believe, Sledgehammer by Peter Gabriel. Don't think it's as iconic as something like Thriller, but it did a lot with the medium. Like it used a lot of computer animated images of the people that are like, again, carrying around the refrigerators, installing the microwave ovens, as well as kind of some of the kind of visual effects that they used, that they overlaid on top of the band performing live. So just a classic music video, an iconic music video. And then at the 1986 MTV Video Music Awards, the VMAs, it ended up winning, I believe, Video of the Year. And there's no surprise there, just based on it was kind of like I said, a groundbreaking music video, specifically in the department of like the visuals and the early kind of computer animation that they were using. So we have that. I remember I had a friend in high school. This would have been, I think he was a couple years below me, so he would have been, I think, going into he was in his sophomore year, I think, and I was just about done with my senior year. And every fall, and then eventually in the spring as well, we would have an air band, like a lip syncing contest kind of thing. Not entirely based on lip syncing, but more just creating a cool performance. I remember winning one of those for a group of friends, and I did Rapper's Delight by Sugar Hill Gang. One year I did Kung Fu Fighting by Carl Douglas, and I had like a martial arts outfit on, and I sawed some boards up that I could pretend to break on stage, things like that. And then my final one I did My Name Is by Eminem. But this particular airband, my final spring airband, I think it was that year. My friend and his friends, they actually had a band. I think one year they actually played live, which was really cool. So it wasn't the typical airband performance. They actually played music they had written and recorded on their own. But their final performance, or at least his final performance, was Money for Nothing by Dire Straits. They had some cool stage props. They essentially went to the thrift store and got business suits, and I think they painted on pinstripes to them to kind of look like they were high dollar kind of suits and what have you. It was a really cool performance. And again, it's just Money for Nothing is, like I mentioned earlier, one of, if not Dire Straits' most probably iconic track. So that was a cool performance. It was recorded in the album at the Air Studios, I think in London. I'm not sure exactly where, but it was a very small studio. I think one of the band members was recounting recording there, and apparently the area that they had set up in with all their instruments and what have you was like a 20-foot by 25-foot room. So just very, very tight. And it was apparently one of the first albums, not the first, but an early use of the Sony's 24-track tape machine. So tape recording and what have you. So one of the earlier albums to utilize that piece of technology. Apparently, Mark Knopfler's iconic kind of guitar sound on Money for Nothing was, I think, according to my research, was a quote happy accident, and it was based on kind of the microphone placement in that small studio. And I think they basically said one person had a microphone turned down toward the ground near where his guitar was, and I think the next day they were meant to actually position it properly. So apparently it never the microphone placement was never really finished, and based on the kind of the improper microphone placement, it led to the way that his guitar sounds on Money for Nothing on the album. So kind of reminded me of, I think, Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine when he was demoing guitars for their, I believe, their first album. There was a guitar that had a weird glitch in its pickups, and I think Tom Morello noticed the weird sound that it was making, and I think the guitar tech or whoever was working on the guitar said, "Oh, when you go to record, this glitch is gonna be fixed, so you don't have to worry about it." Thinking that it was a negative thing that Tom Morello didn't want on his guitar, and then Tom Morello was like, "No, just leave the glitch the way it is because I like the way it sounds." Kind of reminds me of that with Mark Knopfler's guitar sound on this particular song, based on kind of a thing that was not meant to happen, but ended up just sounding really cool. So that's a pretty cool thing there. Let me see here. Let's get to the reviews. Reviews initially kind of were a little bit more in the middle of the road on this album. So let me just pull those reviews up here. All right, so it has some good reviews, has some mixed reviews. Let me see, those are professional reviews. Yeah, there we go. So All Music has the album out of 4. Crystal's Record Guide gave it a B, or a B minus, I should say. Encyclopedia Popular Music only had it at a 3 out of 5, while Grand Rock Discography had it at an 8 out of 10. Music Hound with a 4 out of 5, 8.5 from Pitchfork. These are the more recent reviews. Q has it at a 5 out of 5, while Record Mirror only gave it a 1 out of 5, so pretty low there, or really as low as you can get without not reviewing it, I guess. Rolling Stone Album Guide came in with a 4.5 out of 5, and then Sounds had it at a 3 out of 5. So I know there's a lot of some negative reviews, at least at first, but there's a few 3s on here. Like I said, a 1 out of 5 from one. Sounds had it at a 3 out of 5. So very kind of swingy, like some very high praise, like from AllMusic having it at a 4 out of 5, to Pitchfork, who is notoriously kind of harsh on their reviews. I really like their reviews because they actually are very critical of them, with an 8.5, so that's pretty strong there. So overall, some good reviews, some mixed. And now we're going to jump into our track list here. The album comes in, let's see here, at about 45 minutes and 40 seconds. I listened to, most recently, just the original version of the album. There's been a few, like, anniversary release versions and what have you. Let me see here. 45 minutes, I think this one here is the singles on the LP. Which one are we looking at? Side 2, side 1. Yeah, so let me bring up the track list again. So let me see here. So it's either going to be 55 minutes for the CD, cassette, and double LP, or 45 minutes on the original vinyl. So we're going to go off the original vinyl here. Actually, just going to pull the track list off this. So again, 45 minutes and 40 seconds. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 tracks in total on the album. So we're just going to go off listing off of the vinyl here. And there's the back of it. It's kind of hard to see if I can focus on the track list. There you go. Anyhow, so track 1 is So Far Away. Starts off very strong there. But going into track 2, you get into the kind of the meat of the album is on the first half. Like So Far Away is a classic. But then track 2, we move right into Money for Nothing. Again, probably their most iconic, well-known song, I think. One of them. After that, we move into Walk of Life. That's also a classic. Then we move into Your Latest Trick. So track 4 is Your Latest Trick, with track 5 being Why Worry. Into side 2. So we have 4 tracks on the second side. We have Ride Across the River. The Man's Too... That's track 5. Track 6 is The Man's Too Strong. Track 7 is One World. And then closing it out is the title track, Brothers in Arms, at track 9. That was also very iconic. I do prefer the first half of this record. Like the first, let's say, 4 tracks are just absolutely classics. Not like a few of the tracks in the middle I don't love necessarily, but it really kind of comes back around at the end with Brothers in Arms being the title track and the closing track on the album. Again, there is the album there. So again, pick that up in 2012, maybe 2013 for $4. I don't know what it goes for now, but that was kind of before the huge, it was at the very beginning of the huge kind of vinyl resurgence. And now a lot of used records are much more than that. But yeah, this is a classic album from them. Some very iconic tracks on there. And just great work from the band, especially great guitar work from Mark Knopfler, of course. One of the greatest guitarists probably of all time. Don't necessarily know where I rank him on my list, but he's definitely up there. But that's going to do it for this video. We'll be back in a week with another Essential album. We're getting close to the end of the year, so we only have a handful of episodes left to go. But after that, I don't know what I'm going to do for 2026. Might go back to doing new albums. Might just do... I think I might just do new albums again. I kind of want to do my top 100 albums, but I'm really struggling at figuring out placements on there and what have you. So, but anyway, we'll be back next week with a whole new album. That's going to do it for now. So remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We'll see you again next time. Thanks again for watching. Take care and have a good one.